They did not beat us because of effort. They beat us because of Pringle. And truer words never have been spoken.
Yeah.
One of the most eloquent statements in a
one thing y'all got to know about Alex has a memory like an elephant. Not only can he remember like specific things at specific times, but he can remember like stuff to the letter of stuff when it happened. I look back and like he'll quote exactly what was said like 15 years ago. It's the freakiest thing. Anyway, we're back with Talking Preps basketball. I'm Langston. That's Gary. You know him from Talking Preps football. My man Randall Clark. We got Jason Groove, the state championship coach, down below us, joining us this year. Coach Groove, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Where's that ring?
I gotta find it, man. And, you know, you keep that too close to you. You gotta live in the moment, man.
Gotta live in the moment. And we got my man Alex Bass out of Raleigh. You guys have been asking for some Raleigh stuff on Talking Preps. We got my man Alex Bass, one of the experts on high school sports. And of course, we got the guru, Mr. Rick Lewis. How you doing, Rick?
Doing well, thank you, Langston.
And in the back, we got my girl Cristie Mitchell. We got a special guest today, so we're gonna get right to it. We're gonna drop that theme music. Well, you guys ready? It's time for basketball, I guess.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, Rick, you had a big tournament this week. I saw Mikey Williams have 40 points in the game. They were calling him out before the tournament started, saying that maybe he wasn't the best player on the team, and he went for 40 last night. And I was very impressed. He went to Twitter and put out a little statement and said the other dude, because they were calling him the other dude before the game. What did you think about Mikey Williams when you saw him?
Well, that was the first time I got to see him in person live, and he lived up to the hype. We're talking about a 6'2", 6'3" player that has a NBA ready frame, but he's strong, he's explosive, he's skilled. He can do it all. He can shoot from the perimeter, he can hit the mid-range, he can do a little bit of everything, and he does it with a lot of poise and maturity on the court. But he was the real deal. He's a phenomenal player.
Randall, you work out more top players than anybody around here. What's kind of the word about Mikey? Game knows game, players know players.
I think it's just that how he carries himself. It's a lot like Mr. Dillingham, who I'm sure we're going to talk about later. I think the interesting part about both of them is they kind of just show up in the gym, not a lot of talking, not a lot of, hanging out. It's kind of like, I'm here to work, so let's get to it. And I think that's one of the things that makes both of them, but obviously Mikey's special.
Yeah, the thing I like about Mikey, I saw them, they were losing in Arizona pretty badly in the second half. His demeanor never changed. He never got on his teammates. He kind of stayed even keel. And even last night when he was cooking like you can't cook, he stayed even keel. He never really got out of his personality.
Yeah, you can tell he's one of those guys that's it's never too high, never too low, just kind of straight line all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I want to ask you, the private schools are underway. Coach Groove, you guys are going to get started in a couple of weeks with the public schools, about 1 week. Do you guys think that the private schools are going to finish? Do we think the public schools are going to get going? Alex, what do you think? And Coach Groove, what thought you after that? Do you think we'll have private school and public school basketball?
The North Carolina Independent Schools Athletic Association, barring a complete government-induced shutdown, will complete its season. I think we all know that there are a number of mitigating factors that are favorable for the independent schools to be able to proceed in manners that are unique in and of themselves. I do think we need to acknowledge that the independent schools have done a commendable job in terms of showing that there are means for having high school athletics safely through what we've seen in the fall season. And that should give the impetus for moving forward. I do think that, as I said, that there are mitigating factors that, barring a government-induced shutdown, will ensure or raise the likelihood of the NCISAA completing its season. With the NCHSAA, I can promise you that Commissioner Q. Tucker, in conjunction with the board of directors and all member schools, will do everything within their power to ensure a wholesome, fruitful, formative, interscholastic athletics experience yielding forever memories for student athletes. We do have to realize that because of the further reaching scope of NCHSAA membership and the greater contrast in socioeconomic demographics of local education agencies or LEAs and the member schools themselves, that they'll have to be more diverse and more stringent, further reaching considerations to ensure the completion of a season. But I do believe, I'm very confident that there will be manifold contingency plans in place for if then scenarios should something happen, barring a complete shutdown. And Commissioner Tucker will put us on the optimal path to ensuring that the season is completed.
Yeah. Well, Coach Grube, as a coach here in Charlotte, what do you think? We're going to get a chance to play CMS?
Yeah, I mean, Alex took most of my time, so my short answer is yeah. But I mean, I think the good thing is that volleyball's underway. I mean, I think that's a great sign, and from all indications that I've heard, we've got the new eyes in the sky in the gym. So there's plans for 25 fans, the girls' games, and then they leave, home teams only. So I think that like he said, barring a shutdown, and I think that nobody wants that. I think that we'll get it in. I think if they start, they will complete it. And again, that's the exception would be a governor mandate to cease and desist all those indoor activities. How
anxious are you to get started? And tell us a little bit about the team this year.
Oh man, this is the weirdest year I've ever had. This is my 25th year, and this is the first year we've never gone to team camp. I mean, our program is one of those kind of teams that we lost two really good players last year. Luke May's brother, Bo May, was just a monster in the playoff. He averaged like 25 a game. He carried us to the sectional championship right down the road here at Independence High School. And other than some questionable officiating, I think we should have won that game and had our fourth shot at North Mech. We lost a really good component, Nate Chambers, 2 all-conference players. Another kind of a big. He just kind of came from nowhere and got better every year. And we kind of depend on that. And team camp really helps us fill those guys' roles. So this has just been an extraordinarily difficult year because A, we're not going to camp, and then B, not being able to work out to what we need to do. I mean, we're a team that needs repetition and, more than, 1 day or 2 days a week to build good habits. And so, but we're excited. I think last year, if I would have used my guards this year with last year's bigs, I don't think, I know Dwayne down the road at North didn't want to see us a fourth time. He was so glad to see Independence. And, because those games were just, they were heavyweight fights, but we were just, can't remember a boxer that couldn't knock somebody out for the fourth time, but that was us. We were there and got closer and closer. And in the semifinals of the Mecca tournament, lost on a guy that we mentioned earlier from North, the big there on a foul situation. He makes one of 2, but and that was an overtime game. That was the third time we played him. So, but our guards will be good this year. There'll be, and we got a kid named Graham Orland that's kind of under the radar. He had a real
big shooter. Yeah, I know.
He's kind of a point guard, 2 guard. We're gonna, unleash him a little bit more this year. It's kind of his year, and we got 6 seniors, and 3 or 4 of them are really good guards that kind of played roles for us last year. And anybody that saw us play, Nate Chambers was a heck of a kid that just got better every year. We talked a kid that didn't play hardly any JV his freshman year and sophomore year, barely played on that team, and just got a lot better and devoted to getting into shape and getting better. His junior year and was a pretty good player in all conference his senior year. We get those kind of kids that get better every year. And we got about 4 or 5 of them this year to go along with Graham. And then a couple of guys that'll be ready to move up from JV. But again, it's just such a question mark because you don't know, we usually have those pieces in place. Your 1 option, your 2 option, 3 option, establish roles. And we don't have as many question marks going into the season, but there'll be a lot of those this year. But any chance we get to play, man, that's just that'll be, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Gary, we talked about crystal balls all year in football season. What's your crystal ball tell you right now about getting through basketball season?
I think we're going to make it through. I think that the biggest issue will probably be how they allow teams to fill in games that get postponed. We talked about this during football season. If you have two teams or two games that have been postponed, why not let the two teams that don't have the quarantine issue play each other so they can continue to play rather than having four teams sit out? Just have the two teams that had the COVID issues, allow them to sit out, get straight, and allow teams to find other games. We found this is happening in the Pac-12 now, where they're allowing schools, hey, if your game gets postponed because your opponent has a COVID issue, you can go out and find another game. And I think state should allow that to take place, so teams can get enough games in to actually qualify for the playoffs.
We want to bring in a guy right now who's been playing basketball all summer. Sim Frazier with the Team Curry organization. Was on the show previously. Sim, how you doing? Welcome back.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Just what's your thought? Same question, just about can public and private schools get through the year? What do you think?
Yeah, I think private schools, they've kind of mentioned it earlier. I think they've kind of charted a path of they've done it kind of the right way. They've got a smaller number of schools that they're having to work with to get this done. So I see private schools going business as usual. Public schools is really up to our government officials and things like that. If, like mentioned before, if there's a state lockdown, I don't see it happening, and kind of there's a lot of speculation about that. So I don't know. I think the jury's still out on public school for me.
Yeah. I hope we get a chance to play. I know all the kids are definitely excited. But how was the summer for you guys over at PSB and Team Curry? And what do you guys try to do to get kids recruited? And, what kind of lessons can we take moving forward?
Yeah, so I think with any of this, like Gary mentioned a minute ago, just being flexible, right? So we had situations where somebody might have come in contact with somebody, or they might have thought they might have been in contact with somebody. We shut down for a couple weeks, let people get tested, all that kind of stuff. So we're flexible. We had a couple shutdowns, or we're just knowing that the safety comes first. So going to events like Rick's events and different other events that prioritize the safety of the fans and the players, right? Limited how many people were in there. Social distancing as far as crowds and things like that. So those are priorities for us. And then also, like, we're recruiting. Film is king right now, right? So all these colleges aren't able to get out and see our kids in person. So understanding that the more film you put out there, the better the film is, the better it is for the young people. And then just really working hard to talk on the phones and really promote your kids. So we try to do a good job at that normal years, and this year kind of heightened it.
We're going to ask a question. Rick.
Yes, sir.
So you can go ahead and ask your question.
I'm sorry, I still didn't hear you.
I said you can go ahead and ask Sim your question.
Well, Sim, in regard to pro skills and also Team Curry, talk about some of the things that you've done outside of the planning just events to get kids recruited at the next level.
Yeah, so what we have a database of every Division 1, 2, and 3 college in the country. We have each one of our players create a profile. So that profile is going to have the simple stuff: your name, address, all that good stuff, GPAs, test scores, any kind of footage that you have. And we package that up and we shoot that out to all these colleges. So we do it team by team. And so it's really literally one click. A college coach can open up and say, hey, Sim Frazier 17U team, these are the players, this is their information, this is their contact, all that good stuff. We try to do that multiple times a year, and then we empower the kids as well. We have a platform that we're able to use internally where our kids can actually shoot messages and film and things like that to college coaches to try to get that dialogue going. So, yeah.
So, hey, Sam, I had a couple questions for you. One of them just being like, with the NCAA moving this recruiting calendar back, when you're talking to parents and trying to help them navigate through this thing right now, like what kind of advice are you giving to these parents about how this process is working with everything we have going on?
Yeah, this is it's different for everybody, right? So this is brand new. This is uncharted territory. I think just being patient with the whole process. We always hear the cliche term, kind of like trust the process, but really you have to understand that these colleges are trying to figure out what their rosters are looking like. Are they going to receive waivers for kids to play an extra year, all that kind of stuff, and then also not being able to traditionally go and see a kid in person. So now you're looking at film and trying to do what's best for. So be very patient with the process. And try to inform yourself as much as you can of what's going on.
Gotcha. And obviously, you guys are on the Under Armour circuit. Looking at 2021, if you had to say right now, do you think that the shoe circuits happen in 2021, or do you think that it's something that all three major shoe companies are going to back out of for one more year?
Yeah. So we had a Under Armour call, and they're planning on doing a circuit. But again, I think it's really what happens in our country as far as, the government regulations, different cities and states and all that kind of stuff doing different things. For this year, this past year, we weren't on the Under Armour circuit. And I tell people all the time, it's not about what circuit that you're on. It's really about the people working for you and playing in the right event. So this year, even though we had Under Armour on our jersey, we attended all independent rerun events. Like I said, events that run Rick ran some events, some other people ran some really good events in the area that went through protocols and gave kids opportunity.
Right. Obviously, this was your guys' first year under Team Curry. I know that you go out and you see a lot of guys. Were you surprised at how fast this Team Curry thing took off? And were you surprised with the caliber of players that you got? Not necessarily that it changed, but was it easier for you to get people to say yes to come play for you this year?
Yeah, so we tried the formula's pretty much been the same. So like looking at Steph, he was an underrated guy, right? Not a lot of people recruited him and all that kind of thing. And then looking at our typical PSB kids are typically those under the radar kind of kids. So we wanted to kind of stay true to that, right? Good kids, good academics, and kind of that were floating under the radar. One of our highly recruited kids that a kid Jonas Adieu that I think we'll talk about later. Prior to the season, we had schools that just wanted to redshirt him. We had two schools that offered him. One wanted to redshirt him. His most recent offer was Kansas. So I think it was easier to get some kids to say yes, but we were kind of selective in making sure we got the right kind of kids or right kind of families that kind of fit our profile. So that's important.
For sure.
Sim, if you're not a low major or mid major prospect, how do you go about basically recruiting that player to say, okay, do you want to play on the shoe circuit team, such as a Team Curry, or do you go to the pro skills situation or platform?
Yeah, so we pride ourselves on doing what's best for the kid, right? So if it's a situation where are you going to be showcased in the proper light, right? So you might be a guard, and we had this happen this year. We had a kid tried out for my team. He might have had to battle for minutes, and we're not just going to kick him to the curb. I had a conversation with him and said, hey, you're going to have to battle for some minutes here. You might play on our PSB team, show you can do more things, and it will still help your recruitment just the same. And that kid, he's another kid that's receiving a lot of recruitment. So we're trying to do what's best for the kid and the program at the same time. But it's really about just putting a kid in the best situation to succeed, not loading up your team.
It's sort of like at the collegiate level, trying to find the right fit. I'm sure with, in your situation, because you have two platforms with Pro Skills and also Team Curry, you also want to find the best fit for that player, because if the player is a Division II or Division III prospect, he may be better off playing on the Pro Skills level where he's getting more playing time and also developing his skill set and also being seen by the appropriate level of schools.
Yeah, and even Division I guys too. So like a kid, prime example, a kid Jarvis Moss. A lot of people said that Jarvis should have been on the Curry team. Well, at the time we were forming our roster, Jarvis would have been battling for minutes, jockeying for position. Jarvis was known as just a catch and shoot 3-point shooter, right?
Right.
So he went and played with our PSB Rise team. He was able to show more things, handle the ball, do some different things, and his recruitment has changed since then. So I think any parent, player, always just look at what situation is going to help you most showcase your skills, develop your skills, work on some things. And so that's what we always preach.
Yeah. Well, Sim, man, I appreciate you coming on the show and giving us the breakdown. My biggest question, we got to ask Coach Rick this question too. What parents always ask me all the time, what should I be doing with my kid? How can I help my kid get recruited? What's your answer to that, especially right now in the pandemic? What's like the 1, 2, or 3 things mom and dad can do? And let's say your kid isn't Robert Dillingham. How can I get my kid to go to college?
Yeah, so I would number one, obviously you're working on your game, right? Get with folks like a Randall or different folks in your area to help you get better. I'd watch, make a dream list, a reality list of schools that you can really see yourself or see your kid going to, right? Go look at those games. What do those rosters look like, right? So does Queens look like Gardner-Webb, or does Gardner-Webb look like Guilford, right? Or vice versa. So understanding where you kind of fit in that. And then advertise yourself to those, right? So be proactive with the process, email those coaches, go to camps, things like that. They're trying to get in front of as many people as you can.
All right, man. Well, Sim, we're going to have you back later on the year, man. Appreciate you coming on. Good luck to you guys.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, man. Sim Frazier right there of Team Curry does it the right way. Runs a really good program over there, Pro Skills and Team Curry. Look who we just brought in. We brought in Coach Mitchell. What's up, Coach?
How you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you. Good to get on your
Good to see everybody.
Red.
Say that again.
I see you got on your South Meg red.
Of course. Always got a rep.
Yeah. Nice to see you, Coach. We're not going to have a Thanksgiving tournament this year, but it's good to see your face.
Thank you.
Going to see some girls basketball. So now we got a new segment, and Gary is going to host the segment. Are you ready, Gary?
I'm ready.
Okay. Before we get to the watch list, I wanted to ask Coach Grube and Alex, what are your thoughts about how the public schools can work with the AAU coaches and develop good relationships? Because we always see cases where the relationships aren't so good. And Coach Grube, you can go first.
It goes back to putting yourself in a right situation. I think a program that develops your skill set is important, that you get a chance to play. I think that's a key component, because if you can play, obviously they need to see you play. We've had kids ask me, is it good to be on team X or Y? And I think, that's a tough question, because it depends, if you're on team Y and they're loaded, every day you're practicing, you're getting better with that team, but then you might not get to see the floor. So if you're in a good high school program, then that will translate to that program, and then you'll be on the floor for that team, and they'll have video, and you'll draw some interest. Or you can go the AAU route and be a guy that gets 30 shots, and for an AAU team that's not very good, and it all depends on what colleges are looking for, and that's the hard part, because I've seen so many kids over the years. I've got a long list of them that we were trying to get into college, and they they're D2, or I'll give you an example. Central, Jeremy Ingram was a heck of a player for me. All he did was hit 39 at NC State and 42 at Wichita State. If y'all remember, they went to the Final Four. That was his senior year, and Sand Hills College was looking at him, and Central, he played 2 years and it didn't do much, and then junior year all conference, senior year playing Iowa State on the big screen, so at the dance. So it's hard, you got to make sure that they're developing your skill, and you're getting better. That's the key thing in the summertime. There's a lot of good AU teams, and there's a lot of bad AU teams. You don't want to be running up and down the court every day, and then going on Saturday and Sunday and playing 5 or 6 games a day, and then getting injured. That's the thing too. You got to really put time into the skill, shooting, dribbling, passing, and all those things that I think are key. So it's a tough fit, the AAU versus the high school. But I've been fortunate to have really good guys that have been high school coaches that have also gone into that ranks. Guys coach, maybe he's coaching the girls, or a girls coach which coaches and guys, and those have been the best that I've had relationships with. They talk to you and they say, hey, we got your kid, and what do you think about him, and what's he need to do? And I'll give him a list. So he needs to work on take it to the basket. He's a good shooter, but he needs more space, and so he's not going to get that in our league. So he needs to work on that. So if you get a program like that where you're working together, that's huge.
Alex, I know you're chomping at the bit to answer this question, but you're on the timer. You can't talk 8 minutes. Tell us what you're thinking about AAU high school. Go ahead. I'll put you on the one shot.
AAU has to embrace the notion that the prevailing mission of education-based athletics is the cultivation of student athletes within a holistically formative education-based experience. If AAU is not going to embrace that notion, then there's no hope for there to be any type of a partnership. One of the things that disturbs me the most about AAU basketball is the lack of interest in AAU coaches in terms of finding out about a young man or a young woman as a citizen, and a young man or a young woman as a student, and a young man or a young woman as a member of a family or greater community. If you can't talk to me about those things, then we have no reason to have a conversation. I don't care how many shots someone can hit. I don't care how many points someone can score. I don't care how many dunks you have or anything like that. If we cannot contextualize those things in a broader picture to understand, is this kid recruitable or not? So until AAU coaches are willing to embrace the notion that athletics at this age must be a holistically formative endeavor aimed at developing good students, good citizens, good family members, and then good basketball players, not until then can we talk about, is a student athlete recruitable? So until it happens in that order,
go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
It happens in that order, there cannot be a partnership.
Go ahead, Gary.
It can happen.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. You watch kids jump around from AAU program to high school to AAU program to a different high school, and they totally miss out that that college coach is going to the guidance office at some point and getting that transcript. And if the AAU coach has no idea what's on that transcript, it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all.
All right. Well, we're going to go to the new segment. I'm going to get out of here. It's called In the Zone. Gary's going to host it. You guys have fun. Just don't let Alex talk for 10 minutes. Put him on timer, and you guys will be good. Take it away, Gary.
All right. All right, guys. Welcome to the start of basketball season. Cristie, what year is this for you?
You're 23.
Wow. Because I know we bumped heads a lot of times. So
Yep, that was back in the day.
Yeah, and I've been out a while now. So, well, the big news-making event that has taken place as far as the women's side recently happened when Jessica Timmons, a North Mech player, probably the second greatest player they've ever had, behind Andrea Stinson, transferred her senior year to Independence High School to play along with Braylon Milton. What are your thoughts on those two playing in the same backcourt? Cristie, you first.
Well, one thing's for sure is Independence is going to be the team to beat in Charlotte. They went from being 21-8 last year, third place in the Southwestern 4A Conference. They have what it takes to win their conference this year and definitely make a big run in the playoffs. Jessica averaged 25 points last season at North Mech, and Braylon averaged 18 at Indy. And they both took over 500 shot attempts in their two different schools. So I think a big thing for them this season is, they're not going to get as many shot attempts. There's no way that you can get 500 shot attempts, each game. Who's going to pass it, who's going to shoot it, and who's going to do whatever. But the good thing about their team is that they play together for AAU. So they've been, several of them play on the same AAU team with one dream. And so they've probably already got their sets in. They're probably going to be a step ahead of everybody else Just knowing that they've been able to get in the gym together, even though it wasn't with Independence, it was under One Dream. So they're definitely going to be further ahead, better prepared for the season when the season gets here December 7th than most of our teams. I mean, right now, we're trying to do as little, as much as we can with as little resources as we have with the rules. But you add Jessica Timmons and Braylon to 6'2" Gracie Breckenridge, who, they've got their big right there. She's gotten a lot better. I saw her a couple weeks ago. She only averaged 6.8 rebounds last year, but I definitely can see her averaging a double-double this season for Independence. And I look to see Independence definitely winning their conference and a state contender.
Randall, what are your thoughts about how good Independence is going to be this year?
I got to see these two firsthand. I coached against them back in September on the same team, on the same floor. I don't think finding shots for either of them is going to be an issue. I mean, they did a great job of it this when I saw them. Jessica Timmons she's so good offensively. It's crazy. I felt like, she played well. We did a good job on her. And you look at the score sheet and she still went for 22. And Braylon's long and athletic. I think the thing that's going to be really, really interesting with this group is that they have a freshman over there in Kaylee Carson who is a monster on both ends of the floor. And I think that's going to be their wild card, especially early on, because no one's going to have any film about her. She gets after it on both ends of the floor. She's really aggressive offensively. She's really aggressive defensively. And I think she's really going to help take some of the pressure off those two, because she's going to be able to drive the ball and get to the paint and find, Jess open, find Braylon open, and let them kind of do what they do off the catch, and instead of just
is she always a point guard?
She's a combo. So it'll be interesting to see how they use her, because obviously you have, Braylon and Jessica, but she's going to be someone that's really going to add another dimension that a lot of people aren't going to be ready for over.
And what about on the private school side?
On the private school side, it's tough. I don't think there's, when you think about it, I don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite. I think you look at it, and a lot of teams are kind of on the same level. So it's going to be interesting, early on to see, who's runs away with it. I think Providence Day got off to a great start the other night. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how Josh Springer bounces back from a year that they're not used to having over there.
Okay. And Alex, tell us about the high school scene up in the Raleigh area, public and private, as far as women's basketball goes.
Very simple. Until somebody beats Southeast Raleigh, there is no conversation. Now, obviously, Southeast Raleigh graduated a tremendous senior class. Now, granted, the 6 of the 10 players on last year's roster returned. Now, among them is not Anya Poole, the 6'2" post player, who was player of the year in just about any and every way in any and every classification and category, or any and every award that was given somewhere last year. And she was terrific, but the system and the style will remain the same, and Southeast Raleigh will be able to force the tempo. Southeast Raleigh's closest Cap 7 game last year was 18 points. Until somebody beats Southeast Raleigh, there is no conversation. Among NCISAA schools, I do think that it is very, very noticeable in both public and private schools, but particularly among the independent schools, the continuing drop-off in the level of girls basketball, and not to blame another sport, volleyball or any other sport. I mean, it's not a blame game, because students can choose sports they want to play, but the upshoot in volleyball's popularity is noticeable, no question about that. It is worth acknowledging, too, that the Raleigh area includes a young lady named Imani Lester, a 6'4" post player, who is a junior this year, a 5-star recruit by pretty much every standard that you can employ, has offers from all of the Big Four schools, has an offer from Connecticut, on and on, Louisville, and all of those schools are among her top 12. And suffice to say, if I might for a second, her name, Imani, that is Swahili for faith. And on this Sunday, everyone may have faith that Imani Lester, the son of former NC State pivot man Avi Lester, is the real deal. North Raleigh Christian was a 22-win team last year and will be in the mix again this year, but still holistically is a step behind what we see in the Triad and in Charlotte. But holistically, there's no conversation until somebody beats Southeast Raleigh.
Now, you talk glowingly about Southeast Raleigh, and I've seen them play on a couple of times when I was recruiting on the college level. How do you think they would have matched up with Vance had they played the state championship last year?
Had they played the state championship? I'm not buying it until Southeast Raleigh closes the deal on the floor. And I've watched that program for years, pretty much ever since the school has been in existence. I mean, we can go back to 1999 when Ansley Bienvenu hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to help Southeast Raleigh win the state title. But truth be told, and I'll just come out and say this, the best Southeast Raleigh teams would not have beaten the best teams that have come out of Charlotte. The best Southeast Raleigh teams would not have beaten Gary Richmond's 2002-2003 Vance state runner-up team. The best Southeast Raleigh teams would not have held a candle to the 2006 South Mecklenburg team with Joy Cheek and Betsy Horowitz. It would not have happened. So once again, it just don't compare. And of course, we're all sorry. We're all sorry that the state finals were not played last year, and we want them to be played this year. So once again, just two parts. Within the Greater Triangle area, until somebody beats Southeast Raleigh, we don't have a conversation. On the state level, until Southeast Raleigh closes the deal on the court, we don't have a conversation.
Well, as a lead-in to what he just mentioned about Southeast Raleigh, Cristie and Randall, either one of you can answer this. Do you think because the Charlotte area teams is so much competition in the Charlotte area that prepares them for the state playoffs, whereas a school like Southeast Raleigh doesn't face that kind of competition on a nightly basis? Randall, you go first.
I'm going to let Coach Mitchell take this one because this is one of her favorite questions. I already know how she's going to answer it, so all right, go ahead, I'll let her have it.
I definitely think that you are battle tested in Charlotte. In the Charlotte area, you are battle tested every night. And we have, most conferences are top heavy. Number 1, 2, and 3 can beat anybody in any other conference on any given night. And that's a good thing because you are prepared. But on the flip side of that is you're tired, you're beat up, you could have injuries. There could be a lot of things along the way by the time the season rolls around. And this year it's going to be a short season since we only get 14 games. So it's not like you're playing 23 games and then going into the conference tournament and then the state playoffs. And this could be game 30 and one of your best players got injured. So this year would be definitely different, but Charlotte definitely has a lot. And when you're going around, playing the powerhouses, as an example, Mallard Creek and Vance the last couple of years. I mean, good gosh, how many times can they face each other and look at the outcome each time? And so I definitely think that you get the preparation for the state playoffs in Charlotte. It's just kind of like Alex said, is who's going to close the deal.
And then, to piggyback on what Coach Mitchell said, and then you do all that in conference play, you do that in the conference tournament, and then you get the state playoffs, and a lot of these teams meet each other in the second round. So they're literally eliminating each other from the competition. So that's they literally beat up on each other all season long.
Exactly. Well, during the summer months and the recruiting period, we always hear about movement on the boys' side. Who's transferring from what school to what other type school, or who's going from public to private. What's it looking like on the girls' side this year as far as kids moving from public to private school because of the pandemic of not being in school? Alex?
I think this whole thing is an absolute farce all the way around. I'm a huge proponent, and yes, I'm old school in this regard, that you are a member of a student body. You are a student in that school. And that's why I've got a twofold approach on this. Now, women's basketball is due no more criticism about this than men's basketball. This has been going on in men's basketball for decades. So in terms of women's basketball, student athletes employing some of these same practices, I don't want to hear it at all, because it's been going on in the men's game for decades. But what I will say is that I don't like what's happening, simply because, and we were talking about the independent situation not too long ago. I will say that the player movement in this case has created a very intriguing situation that I think that possibly the most humorous piece of the independence transfer is that we're going to have to see Dwayne Lewis cheer for independence, obviously with his daughter coaching the team. And I'm anxious to see that. But back on the real issue, you're a member of a student body. You are a student at the school first. I don't like this stuff that's going on with these senior transfers. I mean, these are student athletes who already have their offers in hand, so it's not an issue like that. It takes away from the purity of the high school experience. It takes away from you look at the kids who played at places like Vance and South Mecklenburg when those teams went to finals and when those teams won championships, and that they had been together as students representing their schools well over 3-4 years, and I long for a return to that. So, but basically in the end, it's an issue when it happens that way, because there's no reason for it to happen, and it undercuts what is supposed to be the formative, holistic nature of the high school experience.
Randall, your thoughts?
I agree with him. Like you said, you're a student athlete first, so I'm never a big fan of player movement. But with the pandemic, I have talked to some parents who said, "Listen, my kid needs to be in school," and so they went from public to private. And in those situations, I get it. A lot of kids were like, "Man, listen, we're probably not going to make it through this season. I'm going to go private and reclass." I get it. Reclassing is something that's common and more common now. I just think with the pandemic, some people, whether it's true or not, it was a crutch that they were able to use.
Okay, then.
All right. Well, that's a good discussion. We're in the zone week 1. Gary, you didn't strike out as the host.
Practice.
You did great.
All right. We're gonna let Gary take a break, catch his breath. That was pretty good. He's gonna take my job from me. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. He's asking the question. I'm cutting him off. What's your question?
Cowboys won.
Man, so did the Colts in overtime.
Okay.
We'll talk about the Cowboys on the football show when you're a little safe. You talk about how about them. We have you guys. I don't know if you guys watch the football show. We have too much fun.
Hey, listen, Langston. All I gotta say is this: 10-0, man. 10-0.
10-0. That's right. Still time. All right, man. We'll be back in a minute. We got our next segment, and Alex will be back in a minute. Our next segment is the watch list with Rick and Cristie. We're gonna bring in Coach Grube as well. You guys are going to talk about 5 players to watch, and then down the road, we're going to start putting out kind of a high school Heisman list for basketball, boys and girls. You guys are going to put your player of the year favorites on there, and then towards the end of the year, we'll come down to a champion or a player Talking Preps player of the year. And Coach Mitchell, you can tell us about who's on your watch list as we start out right now.
Okay, so Jessica Timmons and Braylon Milton, we've already talked about a lot today, but they are definitely one of the 2 top players in the Charlotte area. And I'm going to add Reagan Richardson from Cannon, as well as Mallory Haynes from Davidson Day. And we're going to go a little bit further out from Charlotte with Emily Hagee from North Davidson. As a sophomore last year, she put up some monstrous numbers. She averaged 27 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, 5 assists. She just a huge sophomore season. So I can't imagine what she's going to look like this year as a junior. And I also I'm going to throw in. I'm sorry.
I said you talked about her a lot last year.
Yeah. I'm also going to throw in Charlotte Catholic 6'4" freshman, Blanca Thomas. I got the opportunity to see her in fall league a couple of weeks ago, and my mouth started drooling a little bit, and I said, good gosh. Normally on the girls' side, bigs take a little bit longer to develop. They might come in as a freshman. They look like a baby deer when they run. They can't really catch. They don't finish around the rim. The big girls normally take by the time they're juniors, maybe they're looking good. She has soft hands. She runs the floor well. She's athletic. She finishes around the rim. So she's going to definitely be a name to know in the Charlotte area, in the North Carolina area in the years to come.
All right. Pretty impressive. Coach Lewis, on the boys' side, and Coach Groove, you can kick in when you see somebody you know.
Well, first of all, there's an old saying, it's not where you start, but where you finish. Last year, we're talking about 7-foot Jonas Adieu, who was just 16, and he was a senior at Voyager High School. And I remember on our scouting service that we had him pegged as basically as a high major prospect, but a lot of people didn't really buy into it. And he had little to no offers. And of course, during the off season, he transferred to Liberty Heights, is now a senior. And he's actually a senior in his correct grade. That's, last year he was 16. He was young for his grade. So now he's gone from last season, had no offers, to this season. He just picked up a Kansas offer. He has a lot of high major offers. He's one of the top big men in the country. You were talking about someone who has tremendous hands. He can go over his right shoulder, his left shoulder. He has great touch. He's a nice elite level rim protector, and he runs the floor extremely well. He's gone from someone that hasn't been on the radar, who will probably be in the conversation as the number 1 player in the North Carolina 2021 class.
Wow.
So now I'm going to take a look at some guys, and I'm going to go down from as far as class. And most of these guys are from the Charlotte area. The first guy I want to look at is 6'7", Jeremy Gregory at North Mech. And this young man has been so impressive in the fall league. He had one game where he had 40 points, 15 rebounds. Today, he had 29 points and 16 rebounds. Jeremy Gregory has, gloves for hands. Everything that's thrown at him, he catches. It's like sticky glue. He is unbelievable. He has a great skill set. And the one thing that he did this weekend is he stepped out and hit a couple 3-pointers. He has a soft touch. In the day's game in the championship, he went 18 from 19 from the free throw line. I'm going to predict Jeremy Gregory could have a year where he's averaging close to 20 points a game and averaging 15 rebounds.
Coach Groove, you want to deal with that 3 times a year?
He didn't even mention Chris Ford. He's going to Davidson, and he played. He was injured a lot last year. That was a kid as a freshman that got on the floor with some really good players at North, and that doesn't happen a lot. Their JV team has won like 3,000 games in a row or something like that, and so they got guys on the JV team that would start for a lot of varsity teams. But you don't play. What I'm saying is you don't get on the floor unless you can play. And man, he was tough as a freshman, and he'll be a senior. I look for him to have a big year, but I don't want to deal with either one of those two, and that allows those guards to throw up shots when you got those two guys, getting rebounds. And I think that Rick hit the nail on the head. Roberts has great hands. And last year he didn't need to shoot as much. But I saw that he had that soft touch. He was good around 12 to 15 foot. And of course, that's a natural progression as a junior to step out a little bit. And, Dwayne will give him a little bit more rope this year. Again, and it's easy to do when if I'm Roberts, I'm shooting a 15 or 20 footer and Chris Ford's in the paint and you can't move him because he's, 6'6", 215-pound rock, So no, we don't want to touch those two. It's going to be both those guys, I think, are going to have good years.
Well, the thing about Chris Ford is he leads by example. He doesn't say a lot on the court, And he doesn't show a lot of emotion, but he leads by example. And the thing that's impressive about him when you watch him play, you watch him, and then after the game, you really don't talk about him, but you go look at the stat sheet and you go, oh, he had 15 points, 10 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists and a couple blocked shots, and he dove on the floor for loose balls.
And he played 30 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And Rick, you got some more IMEC type of players on your list coming up. Who else you got on your watch list? You got Jeremy starting out and Jonas. Who else?
Well, I think the other player, you're going to see a huge uptick in their recruitment, and 6'8" Elijah Gray over at Aldrich Hale, a 4/3, and he had a great season with Team Curry in the summer and the fall. He even came to one of our events and played with the Tennessee Bobcats, and he was tremendous. I think he hit like 6 threes in that particular game. He's expanded his game, and again, it goes back to it's not where you start but where you finish. And these are situations where each individual player has continued to evolve and work on their game. And the thing with Elijah Gray is he stepped out, he's become a perimeter player. Look for him to start getting some high major interest and offers sooner than later.
Okay. Who else you got?
Another guy, all these guys are basically the same type of player in some regard, but they're different. The other guy that I really like, who's also has improved immensely, is 6'8" Daniel Sanford of Vance. Strong, physical, has a huge wingspan, and another player who can go inside or out. He has really diversified his game, and he is a threat from all 3 levels now. He can step out and hit threes consistently.
Really, Daniel?
A big year for him. Yes. Yeah. You know what? He has a great looking jump shot. He has great form, follow through, and he's really worked hard on the perimeter game. I think you're going to see a big difference in his game this year as well.
Coach Groove, what kind of problems does Daniel present for? Well, did he present for you before he became a 3-level scorer? But what type of problems does he present for you?
I'm thinking we'll have to take credit for those threes because I remember at our place against Vance the first time around, he didn't have a 3 all year, and we had Bo on him, and he stepped out to the perimeter and he made 3 for 3. And it was the first 3 he made. He took, we made at least. And then I think he ended up with 4 altogether. I think he ended up being 4 for 5 from the 3-point line. But I think it was a small sample size, of course. But I mean, I kind of saw that coming. Bigs are stepping out. Everybody's face up. Everybody is working on shooting. That's a skill that's highly desired. So if he adds that to his game, he's going to be a tough guard. But I always say a guy like that, and Chris, I'll take. That's easier to guard from 20 feet away than when those guys are putting themselves in the paint. So, it's a matter of, I think, balance, taking those when they're there and when you're feeling it, but also when you need a bucket, use what you got, and get that easy bucket. Cause I can tell you, our guys would rather guard somebody 19 or a guy like that, 19 or 20 feet away than under the basket where there's nothing you can do with them. It's an old fashioned 3. And sometimes those are, those are killers too, and like named earlier, Chris Ford did a lot of that. He's so strong.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you got 2 guards that do shoot a lot from outside, hit a lot to finish out your list. Tell us about those 2 guys.
Well, the next one is Robert Dillingham, who's a top 10 national prospect. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he will battle Mikey Williams for that number 1 spot in the 2023 class.
You got to get Lake Christian and Combine to play. I don't care how you do it. You just got to get them to play. I mean, we got to see that game.
That is on my wish list. I wish it could happen. We're going to be back at Rock Hill December the 18th through the 23rd. It would be unbelievable if we had Combine going against Lake Norman Christian, Mikey Williams versus Robert Dillingham. I think everybody would love to see that.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
I'll do my very best. But Dillingham, I do think, has the potential to take that number 1 spot. He's not there physically. When you look at a Mikey Williams, he's more physically developed at this point in his career. I mean, he's very strong. He's explosive. And when you look at Dillingham, he's still a little bit slender, not quite as strong. But as far as long term, Mikey Williams is 6'3", super talented, but he's probably going to be 6'3", 6'4". He'll be a shooting guard at the collegiate level and also the NBA level. Where you look at Dillingham, for example, he's more of a scoring point guard. His game may translate better long term. Maybe not right now, but long term. And the next guy I want to mention, and I think this young man is the most improved player in the state of North Carolina. and that is Trey Greene. And I think everybody has seen how good he is. And I think coming into it, when you look at the 2023 class, people talked about the elite level guards. They talked about Dillingham. They also talked about Aiden Holloway, and they also talked about Jalen Curry. Mm-hmm. And that next group, people talked about Trey Greene. That's going to change.
The coach like, I don't know about that.
That's going to change because I'm going to tell you what you have seen with Trey Greene, he's gotten stronger. He's more explosive. He's playing above the rim.
He's got a Vertimax and he lives on it.
I tell you what, that young man plays above the rim and is not bashful to go in and dunk on somebody, and he doesn't care how big you are.
Yeah,
he's quick on quick. He can get into the lane. The thing that separates him from all the other guards is his ability to shoot from the perimeter so efficiently. That young man is lights out.
Did he make 6 of them against Burlington School?
He was unbelievable. And, I mean, he was shooting 5 to 10 feet behind the three-point line. Yeah. Now, the thing about him is he's listed as 5'10", and I think there's going to be some people at the high major level that will say, he's a little bit small. Mm-hmm. He plays bigger than 5'10". With his vertical and his explosiveness, he plays like he's 6'2", 6'3".
He like a little bit like a Jalen Cone and went to Virginia Tech.
Funny you said that. I had a conversation today. We were talking about him today. I said, think about this. And I mentioned Jalen Cone as a good example. But I said, here's the difference. Trey Greene can shoot the ball a whole lot better than Jalen Cone. They're both very explosive. They're both very athletic. Mm-hmm. But the thing that makes Trey Greene different is his ability to shoot from long distance.
Coach, what do you think about Trey Greene? I saw you kind of shaking your head when you were talking.
I don't know where, that scouting report came from. It took us, one game film in our league to see that he could play. He was the difference. I mean, they had the kid Daniel Ransom last year that I think it went to Western. And then they had Daniel Sanford, and then Trey and a couple other, they had some pretty good juniors and seniors. But Trey Greene was, I thought, the difference. And it all starts with what you said. He's that much faster because he can shoot the ball. All those things you mentioned before, we can guard those things. We can play off people or whatever. But as soon as you can shoot the ball, that's, Curry in the NBA. I mean, he's that much faster just because he can shoot the ball from such a range. Now you got all that space and you can get on the bounce with that. He was, I thought, really, really good last year. I think, one of the very few freshmen that were all conference. One of the best players I thought in the league and I thought really made Vance go. So, can't say I'm not upset to see him at Combine.
All right. It's time for our next segment. It's One's Got to Go. Oh, I'm supposed to have Randall in here too. And Alex is hosting this segment. Alex, don't make Gary look bad. Do a good job. I'm going to get out of the way. And you.
I was thinking as I was listening here, and we're getting football updates, and here we are, this overlap with football and basketball. I couldn't help but think of one of Charlotte's all-time great professional athletes, Steve Smith. Beyond the fact, whenever we get to have a media experience on Langston Wirtz's show, other than that, one of the greatest things we ever get to see is media sessions at the end of training camp days with the Panthers when Steve Smith was there. He reminded us once that he was trying to be helpful in expediting processes in camp because there were some players who were going to get cut. So he was just trying to be helpful and expedite the process. So that being said, we all know that for all the talent that there is out there, and all of you are coaches, you see some talented people out there, but sooner or later, we all know that someone's got to go. So that being said, got to go. Breakfast food, eggs, bacon, or pancakes? Let's go.
Pancakes.
That's easy.
Oh,
you don't say eggs and pancakes. Bacon and eggs, man. Bacon and eggs. Pancakes got to go.
No way. Eggs out of there. No question. Give me my pancakes and bacon, and I'll be good for breakfast.
They're like salt and pepper. Bacon and eggs. You don't say bacon and Pancakes or eggs and pancakes.
Eggs are overrated. Just give me the pancakes and bacon, and I'll be all right.
Protein on protein, baby.
There you go.
Randall, what about all the dishes that we couldn't cook without egg? Got rid of egg.
Yeah, that's true too. But I'm just looking at it like this. When you ask me what I'm eating for breakfast, it's gonna be pancakes and bacon. I can do without the eggs.
I gotta keep the bacon. You realize if we don't have the bacon, then when it comes time for Thanksgiving, and you got to make sure you get the good seasoning in the green beans.
There you go.
The bacon.
gotta have the bacon.
Oh man, all good stuff. I want to keep them all. You can't use social media. You can't use a social media app ever again. Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Which one's got to go? All right, Cristie.
Facebook.
Dang, she said that easily too. Ooh.
Facebook.
Why are you gonna keep it, Randall?
I use Facebook a lot to talk to a lot of my old friends. Actually, I like Twitter, but I probably have to say Twitter's the one that's got to go. I think
too much info on Twitter.
I think that would be you get it's information overload a lot of times on Twitter. So I think
you got to.
I think for me it's gonna be Twitter.
Facebook's too much drama.
Now there is a lot of that. And with Instagram, I just scroll through and watch pictures and videos. So I'm definitely keeping that one because that keep it light over there. But yeah, I think for me, Twitter's got to go.
Well, the only thing is, if you get rid of Twitter and Instagram working together, then how else were we ever going to be in a position to get a written description and a video of Titus Robinson putting down a follow slam in the state final that put East Mecklenburg ahead to stay in 2008? How else?
There you go.
There you go. That was a heck of a run.
It was.
Oh, yes, it was. All right. So looking forward to getting back on the court. Now, of course, we all got to look good. So, but what's got to go? High tops, knee pads, full-length tights. Go forward and jump in. Who wants it?
I wish we could get rid of all three of them, to be honest with you. But I'm sure for the young kids are definitely saying we get rid of the high tops.
Yeah, high tops.
So they're definitely going to say get rid of the high tops. But for me, I'm saying the knee pads. I
volleyball.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I do coach girls basketball, so I do understand it because they definitely dive on the floor and get after it way more than boys do. So I understand them. So I'd have to say the high tops. I'm gonna go with the young. I'm sure the young kids will agree with me. I'm gonna say get rid of the high tops.
I can't remember last time I saw a pair of high tops.
I'm gonna go with the full length tights.
Wow.
I get high tops. I get knee pads. It's for safety. I get it. Some kids have bad ankles. They're going to roll their ankle. Knee pads for, it's safety precautions, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I don't really know, other than a fashion statement, what the purpose is of wearing full length tights. I mean, I would die if I was playing in full length tights. It'd be too hot.
Coach, you got two young boys. We're not wearing tights in the Mitchell household?
Yes, they are, but I'm not.
Hey, but here's the other thing with the full-length tights. That is a surefire way to an unnecessary uniform violation.
Exactly.
Creating a situation where inevitably you're
got to match and all that.
Roll out there and not have everybody matching.
I hate that rule, by the way, when you have to have a T-shirt. I hate that rule.
My compression's got to match. I hate
that rule. I hate that rule.
Well, the way they have it now with all the rules, I guess our face masks are going to have to match as well. We're going to have to get uniform face masks.
Uniform's got to be intact. So yeah.
Coach, what do you think? High tops got to go. Tights got to go. Or knee pads. One of them's got to go. Which one are you getting rid of?
Who is that?
I'm asking Coach Lewis. Which one are you getting rid of, Coach Lewis? High tops, knee pads, or tights?
Knee pads.
Why knee pads?
You just don't see them anymore. That's for volleyball players. Knee pads
I remember last time I saw a kid in a pair of high tops. Seriously, I cannot remember.
Nah, there was a pair of Kobe's that came out a couple years ago that were high tops. After he tore his Achilles.
When I was a kid, we wore Chuck Taylors. Nobody ever had knee injuries. Nobody ever had ankles really. And now we have all these fancy shoes with all these pumps and whatnot, and people turn ankles and knees all the time. I don't get it. Those canvas Chucks were the best shoes ever. $10. Canvas
Jason,
Chucks.
I'll go with high tops this season, if you will. We can just infuse.
There we go. Well, Coach Mitchell, thanks for coming on with us. We're going to get you next week. We're going to get your official girls watch list next week. It's got to be official. Like throughout the state, here's our watch list, and we're going to count it down. And we get Coach Lewis to do the same thing and get the kids involved. So thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, Cristie.
See you.
It's one of my favorite coaches in Charlotte, Cristie Mitchell, right there. All right, it's time for Rick's Key Guys. This is your time, Rick, to tell us who are your players of the past week. Who are your key guys from week, whatever this was, week 2? Who are your key guys?
Well, we've had a lot of action in the last week, but a couple guys that I'm going to go through is I'm going to have to mention from Carmel. I'm going to mention 3 guys off Carmel. I think Carmel's going to be a team that's under the radar. I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the state. But you have Ben Burnham, 6'8". I've mentioned him before. He reminds me of a poor man's Bobby Jones. He's going to Winthrop. He's an elite level shot blocker. He's improving every single day. He's a kid that's going to Winthrop. He's been tremendous for Carmel and Joe Badgett. In addition to Ben Burnham, you're looking at Cade Tyson, the younger brother of, the one that going to Clemson. Cade has 6'6". He's been tremendous. He has the ability to shoot it from the perimeter. He has good size. He has good strength. He's one that you're going to see his recruitment take off. Another player off of their team that's done really well in anchoring down the things is Justin Taylor. Those 3 guys have been very, very solid for Carmel early on. I think for Cannon, they've been very successful too. And I think Sim Frazier mentioned this earlier. Jarvis Moss has been really superb early on. I mean, he's expanded his game, and he's probably been the best player for Cannon early on. Those are 2 on the private school side. Also on the public school side, we've had a great chance to see a lot of players at the Hoop State League. And I have to mention, again, North Mech is absolutely loaded. I know Coach Group mentioned earlier Chris Ford. Chris Ford is just a leader. I love him because he doesn't show a lot of emotion on the court, but he's one of these guys that just goes out and does the work. He's a blue-collar, gritty type of player, and I love him tremendously. Also, they have a slew of guards that are going to be tremendous this year. You got Tony Waters coming back. In addition to that, Jordan Crawford might be the best 6'2" shot blocking guard you'll ever see in transition. He's very good there. And also Davian Cunningham has been superb for North Mech in the fall league.
Let me interrupt you one second, Coach. Jordan Crawford, I think, is going to be a star. If I was going to pick, 3 guys who I think are going to have breakout seasons, he'd be one of them. Can shoot. I mean, Coach Group talked about shooting the lights out of it, tough as nails, been in all the wars, just kind of had to wait his turn. But I think he's waited his turn. I think he's going to have a big year. I'm really impressed with his game. Super athletic, as you mentioned. I think he's going to have a big year. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to drop that in. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, with North Mech, they fielded 2 teams in the fall league. And, the one team was Mad Max. Vernon Maxwell was coaching. They got the number 1 seed. And basically Galvani's Gunners, which was coached by his daughter, was the 2nd team. They were the number 4 seed. They played each other in the semifinals. And I'm not kidding you. North Mech has enough talent to field 2 really good varsity teams this year.
That's scary.
Competitive. They played each other in the semifinals, and but they're just loaded. And I have to give Coach Dwayne Lewis credit for one thing. And I know you guys talked about it earlier with the exodus that you see a lot of times from public to private school. Coach Lewis does a phenomenal job of getting those kids to buy in and stay at North Mech. Think about Davion Cunningham, who was on the JV team last year. He already has a Division I offer.
Yeah.
He didn't even play on the varsity team last year. And then you look at Jordan Crawford, who was just basically a utility guy, came off the bench. He's a star in the making.
Oh, I agree. I'm really high on him. All right, guys, it's time for our final segment, Coach versus Coach. And in the football show, this is our number one segment. So we're going to see how you guys handle it. Me and Rick are going to sit in the back and watch. And Alex, you can host. You guys have fun.
All right, Coach versus Coach. I'm among legends here. I don't know what I did to earn this privilege, but this reminds me of the Sesame Street. Three of these guys are doing the same thing, and one of them doesn't belong. And I can tell you, I'm the one who doesn't belong with these right here. But I'll do my very best here. So obviously, we got a lot of time to watch movies and think about stuff until we can get on the court again. So we sit back and watch basketball movies. Hoosiers, Blue Chips, He Got Game. Which one's the best?
Hoosiers. And that's what the Indiana grads got to say, right? Hoosiers.
I'm going to go Hoosiers simply because Gene Hackman is one of my favorite actors.
I'm going to go Blue Chips. I'm all about going out to the country, going to find kids, going to find players. I love that movie. I could watch it every day. I'm going with Blue Chips.
I will jump in and say, the scariest thing about He Got Game is there's so much truth in that story about Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually, that's the story of what could have changed the trajectory of NC State's men's basketball program, because it was Les Robinson who could not sell Ray Allen's family on the notion that Ray Allen, who was in the same recruiting class as Jerry Stackhouse, that Ray wasn't going to end up on the bench when they were going after Stackhouse hard. Stackhouse ended up going to UNC. NC State could have had Ray Allen, and he got game. There's some truth in that movie. But
Wow.
Still, great movies all the way around, and tell us a lot about the game, a lot of truths about the game in all those movies. All right, so before we step on the floor again, we see it in other states. We know people think it's coming in this state. Hadn't happened yet. Money aside, shot clock or no?
I'm a purist, no.
I'm for the shot clock.
Why?
I got to coach college basketball for 1 year, and I think it gives you a chance to get back in the game quickly. If you can get the other team to take bad shots, they don't. Kids are not used to playing at a pace where you have to get up a shot, where you have to take the first open shot instead of the first great shot. So I think it's a faster paced game now. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't help the team that is at a severe talent disadvantage where they want to cut down on possessions, because I think we all agree that more possessions favor the more talented team. But after being on both sides of it, I think I'd like to see the shot clock come to North Carolina.
I don't think myself and Coach Grube have agreed on anything this whole entire show. And this is going to be one more thing we don't agree on. I need a shot clock. And the reason why I say we need a shot clock is because one of the biggest things and one of the biggest weaknesses I see in a lot of high school players is just the understanding of time and score and the understanding of situations. And I think that by adding the shot clock, we really get that feel. Like you have to learn how to play with time and score, and you have to understand being in certain situations, just like we do with a regular clock. But I think adding a shot clock only heightens that. So I'm all in on having a shot clock.
Well, I'm going to finish this off right here and do what has been just the reality of this time of the year. And I'm going to create gridlock with a 2-2 tie here and say no to the shot clock. And why should there be no shot clock right here? It's not about time management. Kids at the high school level don't commit to playing defense well enough as it is. You put me in a position where I have to defend Gary Richmond's team consistently. Hey, if I know I only have to defend Gary Richmond's team for 35 seconds, I might get lucky and they take a bad shot. I don't want to defend any of you guys' teams.
Yeah, we're the only ones that would get hurt with the shot clock because we're the one that plays ball control. Exactly. Think about the games. You'd have to pay somebody overtime to hit the button every time the shot goes up. I mean, you watch those games, Rick's games. I mean, I think the average possession is about 8 seconds. So, I mean, I think when's the last time we saw anybody need to, say, hey, speed up the game? It doesn't happen anymore. You're talking about understanding, players and trying to get, IQ. That's coaches got to do that. That's what their job's supposed to be to do.
We can thank Mike D'Antoni and those Phoenix Suns teams for that 8 seconds or less madness. I understand that part of it, but
you see people holding the ball more. I would say that's an issue, but I mean, right? You're looking at another official, and you're looking at going to the shot clock, slowing the game up. Did he get a shot off? Making sure all the equipment is right. And I guess that goes back to money, but that doesn't go back to money. It also goes back to having another official there, and human error going to happen too.
It comes down to one thing. No shot clock for the simple reason. All you high school kids out there, get on D.
And practice free throws. So when they foul you, you make your free throws and they can't come back.
And then it's not a problem.
Exactly.
Not a problem. All right. So last Wednesday, we all know what happened. We had the NBA draft. A few months late, but hey, still a good deal. Okay. The big baller brand is coming back to Charlotte.
Let's go.
All right, Randall, go for it.
Hey, Charlotte Hornets, they get an A+ from me for their draft. I was very impressed with how they drafted on Wednesday. All 3 picks were areas of need. They got exactly what they needed with all 3 picks, and with the LaMelo pick, they got the best player on the board. I love his versatility. I think he's going to be able to play both guard positions, but also at that, like, he's going to put people in the stands, and I think he's got people excited about coming to games this year if we're able to do so. And you springboard that into the addition of Gordon Hayward. And I know a lot of people were upset with that because, basketball people have short-term memories. But when Gordon Hayward is healthy, Gordon Hayward is a very good basketball player. Averaged 20 points and like 7 or 8 rebounds a couple of years ago. And I think that this team is very young, and this Hornets group needs some veteran leadership. Like, they need some guys in the locker room who can teach these younger guys, how to be a professional. And I think that's something that Gordon Hayward's going to do. I don't think he's a big vocal guy. I don't expect him to do any of that, but I definitely expect for him to lead by example. So I'm excited to see how this Hornets team looks come season time, and I think they got a shot to creep into the playoffs too.
Gary, what you got?
I think this is the best week the Hornets have had in a decade. I thought they did outstanding. The pick, they didn't try anything. They let the pick come to them. They took the best player on the board, and some people think who may be the best player long term. I don't worry about his dad, being involved. His dad's just happy, he never has to work again. So, and he's not going to step to Mike. The biggest criticism I heard all weekend was that Gordon Hayward is injury prone, and he did have a freak injury, but he's probably played more games than Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and a whole list of superstars. If you add all their games up, career-wise, he just missed one season. He spaces the floor So the strength of the Hornets team, which are going to be the guards, Rozier, Graham, and Ball, they're going to have room to operate now. And you can't sag off because you got a guy who can hit the three, but he's not a specialist. You know, he can put the ball on the floor himself and he can defend. And then people say, well, you're overpaid. Well, one criticism you always hear about Michael Jordan is he's cheap. He's cheap. Now he goes out and spends some money and everybody say, well, you're overpaid. You're overpaid. And I think that's ridiculous. NBA money is monopoly money anyway. You know, it's coming from the TV contract. You know, that's a tax write-off for Mike. So I think the Hornets did an outstanding job this week.
All right, so let's bring it all together with Jason here. And I will say before I let Jason bring it all together here that I think everyone will see how well this week was, and it will all be determined if LaMelo can speak some wins into existence. I don't know, but Jason, I want you to bring it all together. So you look at what the Hornets did this week with LaMelo Ball, with Gordon Hayward. So here we are in the state of North Carolina. You're a championship coach here in the state of North Carolina with ties to the state of Indiana. So here we are in North Carolina, and Gordon Hayward of Butler University in Indiana. So here we are connecting the two. Better basketball state, North Carolina or Indiana?
Indiana. I think it's got to be Indiana. I mean, I graduated in high school. We didn't even have class basketball. You're talking about Hayward. He missed a half-court shot to beat Duke, if you all remember that, after they beat Michigan State in the Final Four. So anytime, I mean, basketball is king there. Y'all never been there. Wait a minute. Wait, do y'all need some information? Wait, do you need some 41,000 in the state championship game in 1990, watching Damon Bailey bust up a state championship. What do we get? 5,000 in NC State? I think we might have had 8,000 when I was in 2008 at East Meck. But
so long, I thought Gary, please respond.
He can't. What's he going to say?
Indiana is better than North Carolina for basketball. Are you talking about high school basketball or total basketball?
High school basketball, high school hoop state. True hoop state's Indiana basketball.
Okay.
Now you got the triangle here, but Indiana's got, look, Indiana's version in basketball college-wise is Purdue, Indiana, which, because of Carolina and Duke, they've been always in the top. But that's our version in Indiana of, the Carolina Duke thing there. But you got Wake here. We got Butler now. I mean, there's a lot of really good colleges in Indiana now that step their games up. Notre Dame. I mean, Butler, Notre Dame, Indiana, and their ACC.
Hey, Langston was not going to let him do that. He was not going to let him do that.
Hey, I will agree with Coach Groove on one thing.
That's it? One thing?
One thing. High school basketball in Indiana, as far as fan support, is the tops.
Those gymnasiums in Indiana are just absolutely amazing. The way that they set up their gyms, and you walk into these big, they look like Division III facilities, and this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they have these massive gyms for high school games. And like, oh no, if you come here on a Friday night, this place will be sold out. It'll be filled. It's crazy.
No, but I don't think the question is about fan support, though. The question is, what is the better basketball say? Who's putting out the better product, out the better high school basketball? Rick, you put on camps and clinics in both states right now. What are your thoughts?
I think there's more talent coming from North Carolina, hands down, top to bottom. There's more talent in North Carolina. So if you talk about the hoop state being the number of quality prospects coming from the state, North Carolina's hands down. If you're talking about the quality of high school basketball as a team sport in the fan support in Indiana is unequal anything you'll ever see. I know when Tyler was at Butler, I used to do my Indiana Top 80, and we did it at Carmel High School. That particular arena seated like 4,500. They had 6 practice courts that was full-size regulate. 6.
Wow.
I mean, but if you go to Indiana, every high school you go up there is 4,500. If you look at the top 10 high schools capacities in the country, Indiana has 8 of the top 10. And you go to What's the one school up there that seats like 10,000?
Newcastle, Indiana. That's where Steve Alford was.
Yeah, I mean it seats 10,000. It's the largest high school arena in the country, and
that kind of leads me to my last question. I'd wanted Alex to ask it in coach versus coach, but Indiana used to have or still has one state champion. How would that play out in our state? Could we have one state champion or take all 4 state public school champions and play them off? Would that be kind of cool?
No,
that would be a lot of fun. I would love to get the top schools at the private school level, the public school level, and the non-association teams play a Sweet 16 format. That would be a lot of fun at the end of the year.
I'd pay money for that. Alex shaking his head. Go ahead, Alex.
Absolutely not. No, that cannot happen for several reasons. Number one, that undermines the sports season concept, and it undermines multi-sport participation by student athletes. And then the other thing is, let me see if I can bring together what we were just talking about with North Carolina and Indiana. North Carolina at state championship time in some ways can rival the pageantry, the mystique, the greatness of Indiana basketball in terms of community support and the way that communities are invested in their teams. But we need the multi-classification concept to do that. It's going to be a formidable challenge, even for Coach Grube, to replicate that type of a dynamic at East Mecklenburg. Not in terms of the team,
Alex, man, I love you.
But in terms of
I don't think any of those kids on South Central to beat West Charlotte a couple years ago. I don't think any of them are running out next week playing baseball. I don't think any of the kids on Cannon that won the state back in February run out next week to play baseball. I think you could have a playoff, and I think it would do mega numbers, and I think it would have
this is my compromise. Why not do something like Ohio? In Ohio, private, public, get to the playoffs. You got Division I, Division II, Division III, Division IV. Based on school size, we get one champion in each division. So instead of having 8, you now have 4, and you give a chance to private schools get to play public schools.
They do it in football too.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, my last game as a high school senior, Daquan Cook, who used to play for the OKC Thunder and Miami Heat, went crazy at the University of Dayton Arena and put us out of the playoffs and gave us a 30-piece. And that was it. That was a public school playing a private school, and they got the best of us that night.
Gary, what would you think? If you got to the state and won advance, you had another tournament after that where you could play the other teams in public or private school in a kind of an ultimate playoff, what would you think?
I think it would take the luster off your 4A championship. I think it would take the luster off. Because that's your ultimate goal, is to win your classification championship. Yeah. And then to say, well, you're the partial champion, you still got to go. Now you might as well say, well, getting to the state championship, you're in the Final Four. Mm. I don't like the 4 state champs playing.
Well, excuse me and Rick for being Don King. We just want to see good games.
Well, guys, they can still have their state championship at the 1, 2, 3, and 4A level, but at the end of the year, just have a contest where all the teams play and split the profits for the schools.
It's not commensurate.
I think it'd be fun, but I get the argument on the other side too. But guys, look, it's been a fun opening show. Alex and Gary proved they could host, trying to take my job. And we got to get Gary back in his normal environment, his natural environment, to talk about the Cowboys on the football show. You guys tune in for that. But we'll be back next week. I'm Langston. That's Coach Groove. That's Alex. That's Rick. That's Gary. That's my man RC the One. We'll catch you next time on Talking Preps.